As the game began to expand around the countries and inroads would be made into rugby, its growth was crippled by the outbreak of World War I. Many historians have attributed this as saving rugby's status as the country's national sport. To give you an example of the momentum the game was gaining, an Auckland-Otago Ranfurly Shield match was being played at Alexandra Park in front of 3,000 people. Across town at Victoria Park, New Zealand was playing New South Wales in front of 15,000. Club league was certainly expanding and gaining momentum, with average club attendances up between 5,000 and 6,000 by 1918. The silverware was also expanding, with the introduction of the first of 5 premierships trophies still contested for today, the fabulous Root Rooster. By the end of that decade, Ponce became the first club to win the club premiership 3 times in a row in its own right. The commencement of the second decade again saw Auckland's reputation continue to grow as an international force, in what was then described as a momentous 24-16 win over the touring English side, this time in front of 35,000 people at the Auckland Domain. It was the only loss that the tourists had on their 10-match tour. Auckland had struck again. The 20s were a decade that also saw the opening of what was to become the heart and soul of domestic rugby league, ARL Park. This piece of reclaimed land became Rugby League's field of dreams, and while it was the scene of many triumphs, it was also the scene of many heartaches. Who could forget the mud? The legacy of this vision will not be forgotten. From market garden to playing field took just 5 months, and on the 21st of June 1921, the new home of Auckland Rugby League was opened at a massive cost of £4,322. The first game on the ground saw City Rovers play Maritime, witnessed by 7,000 fans. By 1922, the terraces had been developed and the original grandstand doubled in size. An even bigger innovation in Rugby League's history was in 1924 when hot showers were added to ARL Park. The Grand Old Lady, as she was affectionately known, saw an estimated 28,000 fill every nook and cranny of the ground when she hosted New Zealand against England in 1928. In those days, there was no problem with health and safety regulations that we have now. Throughout the 20s, clubs in Representative League continued to prosper. The Stormont Shield was added to our trophy list in 1925, and Auckland continued to lead the way on the representative front. In 1927, the Blue and Whites undertook an extensive internal tour that saw them take the Northern Union Cup on the road, successfully defending challenges against Canterbury, names like West Coast Buller, Otago and Wellington. Singling out any particular individual in the first 20 years is difficult, as so many men like Asher, Carlaw, Wynyard, Oakley and Colpin, to name a few, did so much for the development of the game. But one identity that must be recognised is Duncan McLean. McLean was not only involved in the new Auckland administration, but was the first president and chairman of the New Zealand League Football Council, now our New Zealand Rugby League. And have mercy to those south of the Bombays, was also a conduit in the formal establishment of Wellington and Canterbury Rugby Leagues a couple of years later. With the game gaining its footing, it was not without its problems, both financially and politically, but the leadership of McLean gave needed stability and direction to work with those tribal instincts. As I mentioned earlier, timeframes tonight have only enabled a snippet of the first 20 years to be told. 4 more are to come, and I hope you enjoy the story of why we're here tonight. Thank you.